Hello guys, welcome back to a brand new video, and it has been a while since my last upload. I think it's been like 3 weeks, which is kind of crazy. I just mainly been like processing the election results. And I was kind of starting to try to formulate it into like an analysis video. And then by the time I like fully thought of the results and formed a video, the video was 90 minutes long, and it came out, or I was supposed to release it like 2 weeks after the election. So I just decided, nah, I'll scrap it. If you want a good video on the election, go watch Understand Politics video on it and like his deep dive on the results. It's great stuff. I'm more interested now in taking a look at the new map, because the midterms are, I know it seems like we just got done with a cycle, but I take a lot of enjoyment in just like looking at some new maps and trying to come up with some really early predictions because there's so many different variables. In 2026 and 2025 are going to be some crazy years. So they're going to be more Democratic favorable compared to 2024 for a couple reasons. First of all, what we saw with the Republican coalitions this time was that they are much more low propensity now than they ever had been before. Their kind of base is very different from how they used to be when they used to dominate midterms, even a lot of opposition midterms. This is just completely different. It's how they did so bad in 2022, or at least a large part of the reason why, and why I think they're going to do a lot worse now than in 2024, or in 2026 than in 2024. They just don't have Trump on the ballot, and Trump is what drives out a lot of these groups, a lot of these people to go vote. And without him, I'm not sure if they really turn out. Not to mention, Republicans now have a full trifecta, meaning that people hate the government, just always. They are not satisfied with it. So when it's an opposition year, it's bound to be favorable for your side. So I do expect 2025 and 2026, especially 2026, to be blue waves. So let's kind of map that out. I am not predicting a recession or anything like that. If that were to happen, the map would change completely, but I'm just basing this off of a standard blue wave, like a D+4, D+5 national environment. So I'm going to start off with the safe Democratic Senate seats. They would need to flip 4 seats to get Senate control, which is going to be tough, but we'll see if they can. Colorado, Oregon, Delaware, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Illinois. Illinois was D+10 this time. I do still think it will be above 15 in this blue wave year with Trump not on the ballot, but it would probably be close to falling into likely. And that puts the Democrats at 40 seats. Now for the Republicans, likely states, or states that I think will go to them by more than 15 points, you got Idaho, Wyoming, South Dakota, Oklahoma, usual suspects, Arkansas, Louisiana, Alabama, Tennessee. Kentucky could be under 15 if Andy Beshear runs, but I doubt he does. And then West Virginia. And I think that's it. So the Republicans are at 41 Senate seats. The Democrats are at 40. And now let's move on to the likely states. So let's go to the states that I think will go to Democrats by between 5 and 15%. Starting off with New Hampshire. Jeanne Shaheen might retire. She might resign. There's kind of like some questioning about that. If it's an open race, I think it'd be like D+10-ish. But if she is the incumbent, I think it will be like D+13-ish. But I do still think it will be under 15. Next, we've got New Jersey. You've got Cory Booker, who is a great candidate. But it's just hard for me to ignore New Jersey's rightward shift. It went to Donald Trump no, it didn't go to Donald Trump. I'm sorry. It went to Kamala Harris by 6 points, which is a crazy underperformance. It is ludicrous. I was not predicting that. I think that was my biggest miss next to Texas of that cycle. So it's just hard for me to ignore it. I think Cory Booker wins by like 14-ish points. Yeah. Next, we got Virginia. This could change if Glenn Youngkin runs, who is the current Republican governor. But as of now, I do think that Mark Warner secures another term by around 10 points. Next, you got Minnesota. You got Tina Smith. She's a fine candidate. She won by, I believe, a bit less than 5 in 2020. I think she wins by a bit more this time, like 6-ish. So she kind of underperforms, but she's fine. I don't think Republicans have much of a hope in contesting it. And then you got New Mexico, which went to Harris by 6. It's kind of proven that, like, it's still a firmly Democratic state. And I think it and Virginia, although they were closer this time, will revert back to their 2020-ish forms for this midterm. And that puts the Democrats at 45 seats with their likely races. Now for the Republicans, you got Montana. This could go in a bunch of different ways. Next, you got Montana and Mississippi. Both of these, I think, would normally be safe, but the national environment just kind of drags them down to below 15 barely. They were both R+10 in 2020, but they had different circumstances around their elections. But I think the national environment itself just drags them down to below 15. Same can kind of be said for South Carolina. I expect Lindsey Graham to be primaried alongside Bill Cassidy in Louisiana. And we're going to talk about Texas later, but it's another primary I'm expecting. If the nominee is Lindsey Graham, it could fall to below 10 because he just sucks as a candidate, especially if the Democrats nominate someone good. But as of now, I think it's R+13, something like that. Same can be said for Marco Rubio. Actually, no, it's not Marco Rubio. It was his seat, but he's going to become the Secretary of State. So if he gets confirmed, will vacate the seat. There will be a special election here, and it's probably going to be Byron Donalds. I think it could be Byron Donalds. I think that's probably who it's going to be. He's a great candidate. Wins it by 13 or something, or 12. Maybe below 10, but Florida has just hurt my brain. It's hard for me to imagine Florida being below 10. 2022 and 2024 have just completely messed with my brain for Florida. Next, you got Nebraska. This one's kind of a weird one. I am only making it likely because Dan Osborne is probably going to run here. I would much rather to have a more competitive election. I would much rather him run for Nebraska governor because that's much less partisan. And he's not really going against a unpopular candidate like Deb Fischer was. Pete Ricketts, who is the current Republican incumbent, he's not that bad. So I think he still holds on by a decent margin. It's just probably slightly below 15. He's a wild card though. He could make it a lot closer. Or he could just not run and it turns to safe. And the next likely race that I have for Republicans is the state of Iowa. You got, I believe it's Joni Ernst, or she could be the governor. I kind of confuse the senator and the governor. If Rob Sand runs, maybe it gets R+5, maybe slightly below. But as of now, I think it's R+10, maybe R+9, something like that. Unless a really spectacular Democrat runs. And then the final likely race here is the state of Alaska. It could get closer. If Mary Peltola does run, then she could get it really close, if not become the favorite. But I do not expect her to run. I think if she does run for something, it will be in the House or the governor races. I think she has a much better chance replacing Mary Peltola come 2028. So as of now, I don't expect her to run. If she does, it'd probably be closer, probably in lean. But as of now, I think it's around R+10. That is it for the likely races. Republicans are only 2 seats away from keeping their Senate majority. Democrats are 6 from flipping the Senate. So now let's go to the lean Democratic states. The first one is the state of Michigan. Gary Peters is probably running for re-election. He could get primaried by Gretchen Whitmer, and the state would probably become likely Democratic just because she's such a great candidate. But honestly, her term ends in 2026 as governor. She's going to run for president in 2028, most likely. So, I don't see much of a reason for her to run here, to still be in the national spotlight by 2028. So I think that, it could be... I don't know. I don't think she runs and tries to primary Gary Peters because that would be really ugly. And I think Gary Peters is kind of boring. He's an underperformer. I think he wins by 2 to 3, probably 2.5, something like that. Because although Michigan went to Trump by 1.5 or I think 1.4, I still think it has Democratic roots. And especially since it's a blue wave, I still think it's lean Democratic. But this is kind of getting into the competitive territory for Republicans. They could, in a best case scenario, possibly flip it. Speaking of flips, my next lean Democratic state is a flip, and it is the state of Maine. This is assuming Susan Collins runs for re-election. If she does not, if she runs for governor, which is looking like more of a possibility now that I think she bought like tons of domain names for like Susan Collins for governor, which probably indicates something, but I'm not trying to read it too much into it. I think the Democratic nominee is either going to be Troy Jackson or Janet Mills. I think Democrats have their best odds with Janet Mills. Jared Golden could run. He could run, but he has a good relationship with Susan Collins. I don't think he's like most likely going to run. If it's Janet Mills against Susan Collins, I think it goes to a second round, but Janet Mills does pull it off by around 2 points. If it's Troy Jackson, I think it's much closer, probably tilt either way. And then if it's Jared Golden, honestly, I don't know. It could be D+4 or even possibly getting into likely. And then if Susan Collins just retires and goes for governor, she can make the governor race much more competitive, but the Senate race is basically an auto flip. We just have to see. We don't know. The nominees in that race are going to be so extremely important that like I don't really know. There's no definitive way to characterize it as of now, especially because Maine's such a wild card where it underestimated Susan Collins like crazy in 2020. But you got more polarization, especially now that she's going to be like she's going to be center stage in like the new Trump trifecta. So yeah, I think this could go anyway. She could easily win re-election. It's by no means an auto flip. She's by no means DOA, especially like even if Jared Golden or Janet Mills like run, I don't think she's DOA. I do think that this is a very, very, very good opportunity for Democrats to pick up the seat. And as of now, I think they do, if Janet Mills does run. Next, another flip for Democrats is the state of North Carolina. This one's going to be really interesting. This also depends a lot on the nominees. I expect it to be Tom Tillis against Roy Cooper, the current Democratic governor, who is extremely popular there. I think he has an approval rating of like 58% or something like that. He's crazy loved. The Republicans could primary Tom Tillis. If they do, funny enough, the nominee is probably going to be Mark Robinson. Yes, that Mark Robinson. So if that's the case, North Carolina is likely borderline safe, like D+12 or something. In the primary polls, Mark Robinson's only down by 7, which is crazy. I know those fluctuate a lot, but that's insane. That's insane. If Tom Tillis is primaried, this could go into high lean, if not likely. But as of now, I'm going to keep it as D+3, just because Tom Tillis is an incumbent. He's somewhat strong, but a lot of his base isn't going to turn out for him just because he's not really a rhino, just because Trump's not on the ticket, and just because Roy Cooper is a great Democratic candidate, and he is very well approved. And that puts the Democrats at 3 seats away from a majority with 2 flips already. Now for the Republican lean states. Starting off with Kansas, which is one I kind of debated a lot. I was thinking it's got to be likely. It all depends on the current incumbent Democratic governor, Laura Kelly, running for re-election. If she, or running for Senate, she can't run for re-election. She's term limited. If she does run for Senate, I think it's like R+5, R+4. And that's where I have it right now, because I think she does run. If she doesn't run, then it goes automatically to likely, like R+10, maybe R+11 or 12. It could really go either way as to whether she runs, but I'm just basing this off of maybe she does run. I don't think she could win. Maybe she does if there's like a recession or something. And that's another thing. If there is a recession, this map does a 180. It could completely change. But as of now, assuming a decent, if not mediocre economy, this is where I'm getting like R+4 Kansas. If not R+5, something like that. Which is weird to see for Kansas, but I know. Next, we got Texas. I know. It's the talk of the town. This was either my biggest or my second biggest miss this election. I had it as R+4.5. It was R+, I can't even believe this. It was like R+14, which is ludicrous. That is insane. Democrats completely collapsed in the Rio Grande, or at least Harris did. And then all the suburbs, all the urban areas. Austin, Dallas, everywhere. She just completely collapsed. So that kind of makes me want to have this as likely, but there's a few reasons why I have it as lean, at least as of right now. First of all, I'm assuming the Republican nominee, John Cornyn, does get primaried. If he does, it will probably be by Ken Paxton, who is a worse candidate. He is not an incumbent, and that is seriously going to hurt them in the race. Second, I'm assuming that the Texas Democrats kind of like start to get their act together, which I know is a bold assumption, kind of has a lot of caveats, but I do think that is what I'm assuming here, and I think they nominate someone half decent, whether that be Julian Castro or Scott Kelly or Colin Allred again, who overperformed Harris by like 5. They could do that. I think that would make it more competitive. Is it competitive? I don't know. I don't know if Democrats can actually flip it. Maybe I just have PTSD from 2024, but as of right now, I think it's firmly lean, if not going into likely, like R plus 4.5, just barely below 5. And that already puts the Republicans at a Senate majority. And that brings me to the final Republicans, the final area that I have going to Republicans that I could see Democrats make up gains in and actually flip, and that is the state of Ohio. I do still think it is lean Republican because I'm assuming Sherrod Brown runs for Senate. He could run for governor. I think he bought the domain for that. If he does, that's going to be a crazy election. He could probably win it. Well, not probably, but he could win it. And that would be insane. But as of now, I'm assuming he runs for Senate. He said he wouldn't rule it out, which kind of means yeah, maybe. If he does, that's where I have it around R plus 5. If he doesn't, it could, I think Tim Ryan runs, he tries to do a comeback. If that happens, it's borderline likely, R plus 5, R plus 6. Basically a repeat of 2022 in Ohio Senate. The Republicans could nominate someone crazy, and that would seriously hurt them. But as of now, I think it's around R plus 3 with Sherrod Brown running. I do think this is a flip possibility for Democrats. If Sherrod Brown does run, if he does do a good campaign, if the momentum is on his side, if the environment is on his side, I do think he can pull it off. This is a battleground for 2026. But right now, I just do not think Democrats take it, even with Sherrod Brown running. But it could go into the toss-up territory if he does good. And the final state that I have is Georgia. And I have it going barely to Jon Ossoff. I think it's going to be between Brian Kemp and Jon Ossoff. Jon Ossoff, the incumbent senator, I believe he's approved of. Brian Kemp, beloved. He won re-election by 7. He has a 68% approval rating. So why do I have him losing? Well, first of all, let me clarify. I think he wins the first round. I think Brian Kemp wins the first round by a point or two. The difficulty comes in the second round, where the runoff and all that. I think that benefits Ossoff, as the Republicans are the party of low propensity voters now. And I think that is enough to carry Ossoff to barely getting a victory. 0.4, 0.3, something like that. Just barely, a nail biter. This race is going to be an absolute dogfight because it is so 50-50. Brian Kemp is a very popular governor, but it's a governor's race. He is the governor. People are a lot less partisan when it comes to their approval ratings of the governor, when it comes to who they vote for governor. Whereas for Senate, people tend to be a lot more partisan. And Georgia is trending to the left. We saw that in 2024. It was one of the only good states for Democrats, even though Harris lost it by 2.2. If you look at the southern Atlanta suburb shifts, it is insane for Democrats. It is beautiful for them. It shows that long-term, Georgia is gone for Republicans, most likely. But as of now, I think this race is a complete toss-up. Georgia Senate. This could be an easy pickup for Republicans if they play their cards right. But as of now, I think they barely lose it. And yeah, this map could completely change. If there's a recession or something, Ohio could flip. That brings the Senate to a tie. It's hard for me to see many more pickup opportunities for Democrats. Maybe Rob Sand runs or Mary Peltola runs. That could bring them to a majority. But as of right now, I think 50-50 is the max where I can see Democrats getting, unless they play their cards perfectly, or unless we have a recession. But I am predicting a 51-49 Senate. Democrats losing so many seats this time really hurt them, to where I see them netting 2 seats, but I still can't see them taking a majority or even tying it, just because, like, the Senate is 53-49 right now, or the Senate is 53-47 right now. And it is tough for me to see that going all the way back to a Democratic majority in one cycle. Now, come 2028, there are some more pickup opportunities, and I can maybe see Democrats winning the Senate by then. But as of now, it's tough for me to see that in 2026 without something like a recession. Now, on the flip side of the coin, I can see Republicans easily picking up Georgia. I can see them holding on to Maine. I can see them holding on to North Carolina. I can even see them flipping Michigan, which would bring the Senate to 55 Republican Senate seats, which would just be like DEFCON 1 for Democrats. If in a blue wave you are losing, like a state like Michigan, or Roy Cooper is losing. That would be insane. So there's 2 sides to this. It is tough for me to see Democrats winning the Senate as of now in 2026. I'd probably, if I had to give it a rating, I'd rate it as likely R. But yeah, this is where I have it. Things could change very easily, even just depending on who the candidates are in certain races like Kansas or Maine or Georgia or North Carolina or Texas or Ohio. But as of now, this is where I have it. Thank you guys so much for watching. In a few days, I'm going to release my governor prediction, then my Senate, or then my House prediction, and then we'll just have to see. I don't know what else I'm going to post. Maybe I'm going to take a break at some point. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. It's been a while. I'm back for like, I don't know, a few videos just to cover like midterm stuff, and then we'll see. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.